there's nothing that will wrap me up. That's one right here. Probably empty. Whatever cookies you're eating here, stay here. Well, not on your diet, they know about it. Somebody has it's your diet, not one's diet.
Right. I'll pull that one out.
Yeah, that works. Alright, that'll help.
Yeah.
Good as a couple years ago, there's our friends on Saturday.
Probably you tell us.
He was off tomorrow. This is below my text. I said, Chris, it's not a value judgment. It's simply stating the fact you are not Mark's mother. I was promptly thrown under the bus. Mark's mother lives in Omaha. You were not Mark's mother.
7 o'clock. Time to rock.
All right, everybody, welcome to the monthly meeting for the Merriam Drainage District of Johnson County. First order of business, let's look at the minutes. I have one change over the bills. I believe it should be equal to the market rates. Nothing else. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. We'll turn it over to Steve.
All right. No update on the core project. I was just going through my phone. They held a series of meetings called the risk analysis meetings last month, but we haven't had any updates from, or we haven't had any other meetings in addition to that. I just attended it for, I think, the morning that it was actually a 3-day running meeting. So, not much going on there. Groundhogs. So, as of this morning, they had caught 10. I was actually out last week and walked the creek from Merriam Drive Bridge down to Shawnee Mission Drive and found some other locations where the groundhogs were happy and healthy. So I put those on a map and sent those to our catching guy, or catch it wildlife, and then we're going to move the traps this week. So about 8. A lot of them were around the district property, 61st. So between kind of there and south is where I saw most of them.
61st. Yeah, okay. Right. Which side of the creek?
They were all on the east side. So
Okay.
there was like a little family, 3 or 4 that I saw off south there. So I gave all the locations. They were supposed to be moving the traps this week. So it should be, I suppose, more to catch. And I also spoke with Max Reiki. They intend on getting started next week, which is the 12th. On that work.
Still the same cost.
And they're just gonna clear it, right? They're gonna get rid of all the trees that are coming up. There's some substantial trees in there. That's years worth of growth.
The only additional thing is when I walk the creek south of Johnson Drive, there's that section where it's kind of a little waterfall, there's a drop off. That there had been a overhang of limestone rock. Well, it looks like that portions of that overhang have failed. I need to go back and look at photos that I've taken of that previously and compare that to what I saw last week, just to see if there's been any movement. You guys remember that east corner, we have that big slab rock that is sitting on top of essentially an overhang. So I think, what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare old photos to what I took last week. If it does appear like there has been some movement in the area, I'm going to call the Corps. I don't believe their improvements in that area would be impacted by that, or that they were doing anything there. If that's the case, if they didn't really plan anything to shore that up, then I'm going to start talking with Max Ricky about different ideas to stabilize that and protect it, so that we don't have that side of the wall come down. I'm not, and I'll caveat this like I'm a lawyer.
Don't answer the question.
Yeah. No further statement. Then take the fifth. I'm not concerned that we need to run out there immediately and do anything, but I do think we need to start planning on doing something in the next year or two, depending on what the Corps does. It is turning into something that I just wanted to watch, into something that I think I would recommend we address.
So that location is the walnut slope a gradual, like a 45 with stones laying flat, or is it actually vertical?
So there's, not much. There's probably 3 or 4 courses of the stone, and then that's the area where we have the riprap laid flat and goes up the hill like a 1-to-1 to the fence line. That's where I think there's a lumber company right there.
Mm-hmm.
Where they've got a roofing company.
Yeah. So that is south of Johnson Drive, but it's north of Camden Park. And shifting back to what you were talking about, Max Ricky, that when they're getting ready to start on 12,000, it's short of the wall that was sagging.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Any questions?
Thank you. Jim?
Report. Financials look good. I didn't get a chance to get them printed, but they're looking good through the first quarter. I will get the printed up and get them for the next meeting. The biggest thing that we'll need to start looking at is budget, and then if we're going to add any projects to the budget or anything, or start with the budget draft that I was going to have for the June meeting. That would we won't have the assessed valuation till the middle of June or so. It doesn't come out until June 15th, but I can have a draft budget for the June meeting that would assume just the status quo in terms of what the revenues would be from 2025 over to 2026 budget. We won't know what the actual mill levy would be, but assuming that the property values went up, raised the same amount of revenue, we have a decrease in what the mill rate was to keep the revenue neutral rate. So I can prepare a graph in dollars based upon a revenue neutral rate for 2026. We won't know what the actual, whatever that rate is, but we'll know the dollars that would carry over from 25 to 26. And then let's see if we have any other projects or anything that we would need to increase it over the revenue neutral rate. I don't know. It's kind of the holding pattern we've been in. I don't know, Steve, I don't know what dollar amount the project, if it's $1 or $1 million, and what range-wise, if that's out of our normal budget for 25 and 26.
Probably in the $250,000 range. Right there, 250 to 300.
Okay. So that's something we need to plug in, and that'd probably be for what, maybe 20, something for 25 or 26 or 26, okay.
So is June when you normally submit a CIP? Okay. And then, yeah, so we can get the numbers.
We'll get them to jive up, that's the right word. Up there, and then we'll have our July and August budget approvals and stuff. We've got plenty of money because we've been banking the money without any projects in case we had a project come up. So I think it should be doable without having to increase what our mill ideas.
Right.
Since we haven't had any projects the past couple of years.
Agreed?
That's all that I would have.
Okay. Thank you. Next order of business is the approval of bills as presented for payment. I didn't see any issues. You guys have concerns? Okay. I make a motion to approve the bills as presented for payment. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. What the city's gonna do with the properties they're buying on. Regina, you didn't.
I did. I just wanted you to see it. I printed it off.
ETI moved out.
It's just storage.
Marble
property.
places moved
Oh,
out.
storage market.
Yeah.
They're closing.
Two properties,
I didn't make print it off. I just have it.
Farmers Market or Slocum to be a potential one. You usually get this.
To Jim, yeah.
Did you already, oh, you already signed.
See, that's just.
I see it. All right.
That's attention what? On. Oh.
Normally dry.
Yep.
There goes my fishing.
I know.
Done your job, you can have it.
There we go.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's the monster.
Hey, so could you say?
I do have a question. Maybe you can find out. Here, right now, if I don't, I'll get.
That way there's no.
They didn't charge us, so
I'm
I'm, you know, fine. How come they didn't do such area B and D?
I'll send them that it wasn't needed. I can ask. They don't, in the very beginning, they don't let you do
Oh, I see.
everything until,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Next
I looked on the
month,
property and agree with that, make sure that.
next month, definitely should probably put some line on everything.
What was the question?
So the mowing,
Oh, the mowing.
they didn't do a couple of areas, they didn't charge us, so I can't be good for land.
They probably just didn't think it needed it yet.
Maybe.
But I can ask.
Yeah.
we got a letter from First Interstate Bank, and they're gonna be starting to charge us, a monthly maintenance fee for all of our accounts, anywhere between $125 and $150 a month. So, they have changed their rates. It looks like we were supposed to be getting this fee, and we never received it in the first place. So, and they also sent us the changes effective July 1 for our bank account, terms and conditions, funds availability, things. So now, it looks like it says insured cash sweep, which I believe is what we have. It's an insured cash sweep, which is $150 for each one of our accounts. Because remember, we still have the cash sweep for our general fund, because it's over $250. And we have a cash sweep for our emergency fund. They're already charging you $15 a month for your service fee for your emergency funds. But now it looks like it's going to raise to $150 a month, which seems like a lot to me.
Seems like a lot to me.
10 times the amount.
For keeping our money? You're in charge of
For,
keeping our money?
yeah, for
And
using our money.
You're lending them money.
Right.
Yeah. Should we look for another bank?
I would,
Or ask if they can
yeah, I would,
review the terms of our account.
try to get that lower down. Jim, do you wanna put that on your list?
Sometimes at least two of us will all fly the truth with it.
It just seems like an awful lot of money, and you have
Kind of a big jump.
like
Yeah.
over $500,000 in your general fund and over almost one and a half, well, 1.1. Oh no, 1.4.
They might just be a set percentage or fee for whatever the amount is, like, okay, if you have between this much and this much, but yeah,
It just seems like a lot.
10 times the amount to babysit the money in our fund,
And
and then to use it, and to make their
get any-
12% interest or whatever they make on that, yeah, and they pay us, what, 0.5%, what's our interest rate on that?
It's not much. I think it was supposed to be a, based on points, right? Wasn't it something, it like was based on the, I don't know, we've only been getting like $115 a month versus the $1,000 or $1,600 we were getting previously.
Big one.
Did they, if I understood you correctly, they said they should have been charging this fee?
Yeah, it says that it was, to rectify an error or something.
Do we need to have the sweep service? I mean, it looks like they're charging
have
on the
to.
sweep.
Because, well, unless we're gonna put our money in like multiple different banks.
Because it's over the FDIC.
Correct. So what they do is that they sweep
They
it
spread it.
into a bunch of different banks.
Right.
Because it can't be in multiple, it can't be in the same bank, it has to be multiple different.
It's per depositor, so that if you have 5 accounts, they aggregate, unless you have the sweep.
Yeah, because it's what, 150 per account, FDIC, or is it 250?
250.
Total.
250 per account.
No,
total.
per person, per.
Really?
Yeah.
So if you've got 150 in one and 200 in another, you're close.
That's why we have to sweep accounts, so it'll actually
I
move
thought
into
it was per
multiple.
account.
One thing you may ask them on there is if they can also pledge securities. They can take part of their money, pledge securities that are held in a 3-party agreement, one with the Federal Reserve, that would secure the district's deposits at the bank, and then they wouldn't have to sweep them out to other banks to do that, because the third party, it's a 3-party agreement for municipalities, and so if we've got $1.2 million or something on there, they take $1.2 million out of their equity, buy a treasury bill, a treasury note, and they put it in basically safekeeping over at the Federal Reserve. And so that then, it's a 3-party agreement, so to get the money out of there, you've got to have the signature of the district and the bank to pull the money out. It's got to stay in their security. for there, and that complies with Kansas law of having more than 250 in one institution that they can pledge securities, and they move them out of their own equity and put them over for safekeeping over at the Federal Reserve.
How does that work when you go to your emergency fund? Will you be able to get that access?
You can still have access to it. All it is security
Okay.
on there. You still have full access to the money. It doesn't limit what your access to the money is. All it says is if the bank goes under, the Federal Reserve has a treasury note that has been pledged to Merriam Drainage District that has a higher security interest than any of the other creditors of the bank, and that money would immediately go to the district to fund their account, so you won't have a risk of loss of what your money is. So that's the other way to comply with Kansas law versus having to spread these out to all these other ones there. So you may ask them if they I don't know if they have any other municipal customers, but most all the ones that I deal with have just the three-party agreement with the bank, Fed, and the organization to have that money in safekeeping, to have a pledged security. Some of them don't want it. That's why I don't know if they do, because it does take equity out of their balance sheet and move it over into the pledged security that they've got. So some of them don't want to do it. Some of them, the interest rate changes because now they've locked up $1.2 million or $1.3 million, whatever interest rate the Treasury is paying on that for those monies. So what they may pay is a little bit less than what you may get by spreading these out, but it's still in one location. So it doesn't impact the ability of the district's funds or anything like that. So.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you know what?
And you're not paying $1,700 a year for them to look at your money.
Right, because they don't have their money. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I had a couple things. So just a reminder, I'm going to be gone next meeting. So for our policy, that falls to the secretary.
Okay.
And then just a reminder that the deadline for the MDD board application is June 2nd. And looking at you for election. That would be at the Johnson County election office.
Might have been noon means noon over there on that date.
Yeah, I know.
Mission Woods or something, some people went out later in the afternoon a couple years ago and found out that noon meant noon.
So that's all I have. Any other new business? Make a motion to adjourn at 7:23 p.m. Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone.
Phone operator.
For 30 minutes all day long.
Oh, gosh, schedule. I'm going. All right.